Today we have Darren Woodson. I'm going to start reading off all the stuff about Darren Woodson, and we'll get started after that. So, three-time Super Bowl champ for the Dallas Cowboys, played his entire career there. I think in high school, 6 touchdowns in one game.
Yeah, but there's a story behind that.
Okay. And for all the Packers fans, what your first interception? Brett Favre?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Retired, leading tackler for the Cowboys. He's in the Cowboys Ring of Honor, which is all very cool. After football, analyst for ESPN, and for us and this podcast and this show, it's really important. Father, also a spokesperson for C5 Youth Foundation of Texas, and also on the board member of Make-A-Wish Foundation. And one of the quotes I found that I thought was really telling of you was, and this is a direct quote, "I truly feel called to help empower young women and men to create better futures for themselves and their families. I believe what is done for one individual will touch the lives of many, and I want our youth to know there are no goals too large to successfully achieve." I thought that was a great quote, and one of the reasons I definitely wanted to have you on is I've heard you speak a few times, and you're an amazing speaker, and just you hit on character over and over and over again when you speak, and I just think there's a lot for us as parents, and there's a lot of kind of wisdom we can kind of distill into our kids. So, welcome, Darren, to the show, and we'd love to listen to your story and learn more.
Yeah.
One more time,
Yep.
What you think attributed to the person that you are today?
My mother, and I didn't have a specific role model in my life, and everybody has these sports role models, and whatnot. My mother was my role model in my life, especially as a child. She raised 4 kids in the inner city in the projects of Phoenix, Arizona, in the Henson projects. No father figure, but a mother who worked 2 jobs every single day. Had Sundays off, which was her church day, but of course, she did a great job of keeping us off the street. And I say that because, in the inner city, there was so much going on, whether it be drugs, the violence, the gangs that were involved, or you just flat out go the wrong way. There was just so many opportunities for failure. She kept us involved. School was number one. The after-school programs. I mean, we used to go to YMCA. There was a local YMCA that was right across the street from the Henson Projects, where I went every single day. I can tell you what, I became one of the best ping pong players ever at that YMCA.
That's good.
But as a kid, that was the influence, was keep us off the street by keeping us active, keeping our brains moving. And I just wish, and I just, I've told Matt, I've had this conversation with you before, I just wish I had a YMCA when I was a kid. I wish I had a Kid Strong when I was a kid, because YMCA did its job, but I could imagine how much further and how much growth I would have had if I had Kid Strong in that neighborhood, and just the ability to overcome. It would have meant so much to not only myself but so many kids in that neighborhood. But again, going back to my mother, it was keep us off the street because she had to work 2 jobs. YMCA was a big factor, and then church. We were heavy in church, and to this day, I'm a man of faith. My Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is where I start, and I got to give that to my mom. She was about character, and she defined what character is all about.
That's so great.
So one thing that's really cool, so I'm assuming if your mom has to work and you guys are away a lot, there must be some conversations going on at home, because your mom's not with you 24/7, but obviously she has a lot of influence over your decision making.
Yeah.
And I think, it's a real education for parents to know that how important these standards we set at home and these conversations we have at home, because you're kind of armoring your kid up for when they go out into the world.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you had to make a lot of these decisions, just you.
Yeah.
So can you talk about like some of the things that went on at home and some of the conversations?
Well, it wasn't just me. I was the youngest. of 4.
Right.
And, my sister, who's 7 years older than I am, played a huge role. And she grew up early. She really did. She had to grow up early because she had to take that pressure off my mother, who had an expectation and made sure my sister Monica played a huge role in helping us grow up. But just conversations, and I think, you know, the conversations that we would have were based on faith. It really was. I mean, that was our foundation. It was based on, you know, the church, based on the Bible, and we try to stay strong in that aspect. But, you know, a lot of conversation. Again, you know, as an individual, yeah, there were some things that I did wrong, and I wish I could take back. But I mean, it was because of the faith and the fear. I mean, I had so much fear. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story.
You're scared of getting in trouble.
Oh my God. I
I
got into a lot of trouble, but here's the reason why I didn't get in trouble a lot. I can remember going to a store, and it was we used to call it a stop and go that was down the street from my house. And I remember walking in the store, and I had a couple buddies that were with me, and they stole some candy. Unbeknownst to me, I had no idea. I walked in, I paid for what I was doing, and I walked out, and they stole candy, and I had to be 9 years old. And I remember we walked out, and one of my buddies said, "Hey, look at all this candy I had in his pocket." And it scared the mess out of me, because I knew if my mother found out, holy cow,
She would kill you.
like I'm dead. I'm dead to rights. So, you know, there was a fear factor in how we were raised, but it was an accountability factor, and all of us. I mean, again, when you have 4 kids and all of them go to college and all of them graduate and all of them I mean, that says something about your mother. I mean, it really does, and that's our job. I mean, as parents, I mean, my mother always told me, "I'm not going to be your best friend. I'm going to be your mom, and be your parent and guide you, because, you know, your will is through Jesus Christ, and I'm just here to guide you." And it's the same thing with me. You know, I'm not going to be my kids' best friends, but I'm going to guide you in the try to guide you in the right direction.
Yeah. And I think that's what I know, especially in this generation. You know, my mom was definitely not my best friend, but I know and to this day, I know she loves me. She loved me, but she did not let me get away with anything.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard for younger parents to not be the best friend.
Yeah.
You know, I'm definitely not young anymore, but like when I have to discipline my kids, like I really have to get into my head and tell myself, you're not the best friend, and it probably literally hurts me more than it hurts my kids, because they're over it, you know, in 10 minutes, and then I'm still pondering it 2 days later, right?
Right.
But I really do think for the future, you know, when they're men and women and their parents as well, those little things that you helped them and you guide them along the way make them the person that they end up being.
Yeah.
Which in your case was what your mother did for you.
True. You know, and I'm also a believer that, you know, I'd rather be tough on my kids than have the streets tough on them. Like, I'd rather be the person that you're going to dislike, because I'm going to love you through and through. Whether it's, you know, I know I'm going to come down hard, and I know there's going to be a ton of discipline, but at the same time, I would rather be that person and then have the streets be that, because the streets are not going to have any mercy. Because people don't love you outside of the house. Inside the house, as a parent, I'm going to love you through and through your good and through your bad, and hopefully through my good and bad. But those streets are going to be ruthless. So learn from me the hard way instead of the streets.
I like that.
So I think some of your work you've done with youth is super inspirational. Can you talk about some of the things? So when you talk to these groups of youth, you know, not all of them have, you know, the upbringing that, you know, my kids have or your kids have.
Yeah.
You know, what are some of the things you speak to them about, you know, because there's a huge diversity of what's going on at home.
Yeah.
what they see in their neighborhoods. Can you talk a little bit about, some of the things you talk about with them?
Yeah, I start with, and I'm a spokesperson for a group called C5 Texas, which is basically mostly inner city kids from homes that are not so favorable. I'll say that, but we help them through a mentorship process from 7th grade through their senior year in high school and on. And the conversations I have with those kids is about education. Because the one thing about sports, I started playing football when I was 8 years old, and I played football, basketball, baseball, you name it. But sports can only take you so far. Really can. I mean, and half the time, it's like the 1% that actually make it to that next level. Mm-hmm. So if you're banking your life on, you're going to be the next Mike Trout or LeBron James, good luck with that, because that's that's going to be a hard one to do. But I always feel like, and I've always felt like the mind is so powerful. It is the most powerful part of who you are. And a lot of times as kids, and I talk to the kids about, don't let your mind cower you, because what your mind wants, everything, your mind, your body, and wants to be a coward. But you can control your mind. And once you get to that point where you can honestly put yourself in a position where, whether it's waking up early in the morning to get the job done, if it's overcoming the excuses, that's your mind working for you. If it's, the decisions that you make, that as my son, that the decision is the right or wrong decision, and you make the right, your mind you can control those instances. So, my big talk to the kids is educate yourself in all aspects. Have a goal, have a purpose, having a purpose in life, whether it be, if it's one thing, if it's to get a good grade in the class, in your English class, set it as a goal, write it down. If it's to be the best at playing the trumpet for the band, then you write that goal down. You practice and you work towards it. But work towards goals and have purpose in your life. And that's the one thing that I always felt like I did. I had a drive because there was a purpose. It was, my mother instilled the fact of your education is number one. So I went to Arizona State University, which is probably not the hardest school to go to and graduate from. But 3.5 years, I got my paper, and I was ready to move on. I had already gotten my paper before my football eligibility had ended. So, have that drive and have that purpose for whatever goal it is, and do not use excuses that, there's not enough hours in the day. I didn't have enough time. Then wake up early. Stay up later. I mean, whatever it is, you want it, you have to go get it, because no one's going to give it to you. So, that's right. My message is, take what you want, because there's no gimmies.
It really sounds like your mom really empowered you guys,
Yeah. And again, it's, coming from the inner city as a Black child and knowing that living in a place where there was so much negativity, in a place that a lot of people didn't have goals, didn't have a lot of hope, didn't have dreams. I know most of my friends went on, either they went to the military or they're in jail, and there was only a couple of options, and it was because there was no hope in the inner city. And I think there's a reason why. There's a lot going on now in our society right now. There's just, it's cyclical, and we have to we have to find a way to stop the cycle of all the negativity. And I think you start that with education. You got to educate kids and give them an opportunity. If you don't give them an opportunity, they lose hope, and then we have all the destruction and the crime and whatnot.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is when you go do that, I think you're giving them hope, because you're showing, I grew up in a place like this, and here's what's possible.
Right.
I grew up in Megan too, in a fairly poor part of Appalachia. We call it Appalachian, but it's.
Yours was probably worse than mine.
I don't know. Megan's pretty redneck. But one of the things growing up was, there wasn't a lot of people that got out,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
and, when somebody does get out and they come back, it's just, it inspires people because they're like, oh, it's possible because, it's just, I think it's just really inspirational that you take the time and go back because you don't have to do that.
Yeah, I do.
You know.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes,
awesome.
I do. And again, it comes back to, I had tough love growing up, and these kids should have some tough love as well. And let's be honest with them. Let's just be flat out honest instead of pampering and walking around with gloves. I mean, because the future is going to be honest with them. And this world is going to be, brutally honest. And if you're a child, listen, and I'm dealing with it right now. I have 4 kids right now. And it was tough, man. It's tough raising kids. That's not an easy gig. I mean, it's hard. And, I've told my kids here, I got a 19-year-old here, life is not fair. My son is a very good baseball player and got, and had been recruited by 19 now, but at 15, he's getting recruited by every college school in the country as a baseball player. Why baseball? I have no idea. He's a coward. Didn't want to play football. Anyway,
right.
So, but, in the end, his grades dropped, and University of Texas, where he wanted to go, ended up dropping him. And he could not understand why this happened to him. He just couldn't figure out, well, why would they drop me? I'm a good baseball player. I do this and this and that. And I said, look, man, your grades dropped. You didn't handle your part of the business. There's a business deal. Your grades aren't good, then here's your issue. And he had the mentality for a while that life is not fair. And I told him, darn right, life ain't fair, man. It sucks. There's times that, that you're going to get knocked on your butt, but, the resilient part of you gets back up. You got to get back up.
And I think that's something, so one of the things, I mean, obviously I love Kid Strong, but just for our own kids, all 3 of our kids have been in the program since they literally could walk. Our daughter's getting ready to be 6, but my favorite part about Kid Strong isn't just like the physical part, it's the brain and the mental stuff that we teach kids, and the whole, like, you are strong and you can do it. Right? And I think kids need to hear that more than they need to hear, like, the negativity. I know with our daughter, like, now she just will recite it. Like, even if she falls or something, she gets right back up and she says, I am strong, right?
Yeah.
And like you were saying, like, it's the mentality, and it's up to us to raise all kids, like, even if they're not literally our kids, we have thousands of kids coming in the Kid Strong doors. It's our responsibility to help guide them and put it in their head like they can do it. Because doing like the monkey bars will transform into, them being confident to tackle on something when they're 20. Right?
Exactly. And that's just it. Overcoming. Just overcoming. And being resilient in that task. How many times, I mean, as adults, how many times did we fail?
Right.
And how many times have I've seen, including self, give up? No, I'm not going to do it. That doesn't mean anything. I can move on and whatnot. No, it's not. That shouldn't be the mentality. And let's not forget this as well. And this is talking to all the parents out there, is that your kids are watching you every single day. You may not know it, but they're watching you every single day, how you react when things are negative in your life. How do you react when you have to overcome? Do you actually get up? Like you're telling them when they fall off their bike, get up. Well, are you actually getting up when things are going rough? I mean, they're watching. This is an interaction that's going both ways. It's not just you looking at your kids. Your kids are watching you as well. And I think that's one of the great things about Kid Strong is that, you're going to go through a process where you can't get up on that monkey bar. You may not be able to do it for 2 weeks, but on that 3rd week, you finally get up. And that's the joy. That is the joy. That's what we capture. That little time when my son is able to finally get up on that monkey bar and make hay and do what everybody else has been doing. Maybe there's kids that's been in front of him all this time. That's the joy and the celebration. And we should celebrate those wins. Let's celebrate those wins. Those are W's.
Yeah. Right.
I think that programming, that programming at home with mindset, it's just so important. And I think, when we hear you talk, you can hear your mom's like programming, like coming straight through, because you've heard it so many times, and I think it's just, important for us as parents to realize, you have to hammer these same things over and over
again
and over and over. Because that's the only way the kids are going to pick it up.
Yeah.
And, again, you, like you said, they're watching you. So if you're not empowered and you're not, able to overcome things or the way you react to things, it definitely gets transferred down. And I think, we have to become more cognizant of it. When we get upset, how should we act? Because the kids, they're watching.
Yep.
When things are tough, how do we act? They're watching. And, I think it's just really cool because I can just hear your mom, like,
it's
just like imprinted on you.
Yeah,
and,
she is,
you
man.
can see how now it shapes the way you father your own kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's, look, again, I'm not perfect in what I do at all, man. It's a learning experience every single day, and it takes, they always say it takes a community, man. It takes a village to raise a kid, and that's Kid Strong is that village. We're about to make that progress. We're about to go there now. We're about to, hey, it's time for Kid Strong to be, international. But there's just so many. I don't know if you guys have really taken that time to think about, Megan and Matt, what you guys have provided. I mean, you're providing a community, and there's so many kids that can be touched in this process. I'm serious, just because there's so many kids that fall through the cracks and have so much potential, but then they just don't have the right guidance. They don't have the right mentor. I don't know how many buddies I know that I grew up with that had so much potential, but didn't have something that they could hold on to. And that would build the mind and keep them strong. I had my family. They didn't have the family. They didn't have that person in their lives. But, Kid Strong would have been that outlet that could have really provided that access for them.
And I think, too, we always talk about how amazing every single Kid Strong coach is and how they're professionals. And I know you've seen some of them at coaching classes. But, like, these coaches are huge mentors in these kids' lives. And sometimes it takes a certain special story for the coach to like really understand, oh my gosh, like I'm really making an impact. But I mean, we have parents telling us how their kids go home and play Kid Strong, and one of the kids is Coach so and so and the other one is Coach so and so.
I think one of the things you just want to hit on is your podcast, and you started a podcast. Can you talk a little bit about why you started, the mission behind it?
Man, I just want to get to know, I always wanted to know the stories behind their greatness, whether it be Brady or Manning or Michael Jordan. We have them on SportsCenter on ESPN, but we never got deep down into it. So I ended up joining, over time, joining a firm called ESRP. We were a commercial real estate firm here in Dallas. And through that transition, there was a couple of guys that I ended up meeting, Tyler Klutz being one. And, Tyler, the reason why I'm on with you guys, the introduction to Kid Strong was through Tyler Klutz.
Yeah.
But Tyler and a young guy named Ben Gibbs, who's also a family member of Kid Strong as well.
Okay.
We sat down in the office one day, and they're strong, faithful men, and they said the same thing. Look, I know you don't want to get back into TV, but we should talk and tell stories and listen to stories that are interesting stories that people may be interested in.
Yeah.
And I got involved. We did our first shot. First of all, it took me 8 months to really want to do a podcast. I really didn't want to get back into the media side of things. But the first show we did was so therapeutic. I mean, we did my story, and it was refreshing that actually I've never told my story as a child. And we did that story, and then the second podcast we did Tyler's story. And my story, I thought my story was, hey, I'm just telling it from my point of view. I heard Tyler's story,
Yeah.
and it blew me away.
He's got a good one.
It was an awesome story.
We cried.
Like living in a car, trying to play football. Like,
yeah. I mean, there was so much into his story that I just fell in love with the show based on hearing interesting stories and what comes along with it. It's the ups and the downs. Again, like we're talking Kiss Wrong, ups and the downs, being able to pull yourself back up. We did an interview with Troy Aikman just last week, and everyone sees Troy Aikman as, well, Fox color analyst, one of the best in the business, but they've never heard his story.
Yeah.
And he made mention that he's never told his story as a child, and how he had to get up and how he got cut from a team, and the feelings that he had as a kid, that he didn't think he was going to ever play football. I thought he'd be playing baseball or go on to farming or whatnot. I mean, people would need to hear these stories, and that's what the Darren Woodson show is all about. It's the stories, the ups and downs, the failures that you had to overcome.
It's awesome.
And I got two great partners, man, who carry me every day. Trust me.
It's great.
On the show. So tune in if you guys can.
We'll put the link to it in the comments.
Yeah.
So people can subscribe to it.
And I think
again, the stories, the interviews are not just sports. We're going all verticals. We're going to have Matt, you and Megan on at some point. We're going to tell the stories from the beginning, because you guys got a great story. I've heard the story. I don't know if everybody else has heard it, but I mean, there's so many people that have great, interesting stories, and we need to tell them.
Yeah. And I think you're hitting on something really good, because just like in your instance, a lot of people see Darren Woodson as something than your story, right? I mean, you didn't just wake up one day and get all those things. Like, you worked hard for those, and you had a lot of struggles. And I think it's important for everyone to hear. I love listening to, we don't play professional sports, but we listen to other founders and people who have created businesses.
Yeah.
We listen to their stories, and it kind of puts it into perspective for us as, people trying to
and when we
create a business.
And we talk to a lot of kids that are entrepreneurial, and one of the biggest things we try to tell them is, what you see is like, it didn't just happen.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It was a mess. And I don't know if you've ever heard like Kevin Hart's story, but everybody sees him now and they're like, oh man, he's like an overnight success. And you don't know, he was like 20 years of like people saying no to him, just grinding. A lot of people don't know, like, he built his audience on an email list. Like, it was just like hard work for 20 years. And, I think kids, especially, Evie's in here hitting us with a baton. I think a lot of kids, and I think parents expect this too. Like, they just see like the top of the mountain.
Yes. Yeah.
But they don't see like all the work and like all the hardships that went into it. And I think when you talk about like being honest with kids, I think it's just one of the best gifts you can give them is just reality.
Yeah, reality. Yeah, we talk about that. And I know there's a lot. There's probably some Cowboy fans on here, but every day, my office is at the Star in Frisco, and we overlook the practice field. And what everyone always sees is Sunday. They see the game on Sunday, and that's it. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, all these guys run out there on Sunday, and they either win or lose, and people judge them off of that. But what they don't see is Monday through Saturday. And every day I can look out my window at the Star at my office and look down and watch Dak Prescott show up on the field at 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m., and he will work all the way through until almost 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And he's on the field, and he's throwing passes to all these guys. He's working on his footwork. He's doing all these things, and then you see him on Sunday, and it's a finished product. That's what we
That's
see.
live.
That's live, right? And people just see that on Sunday. They don't see all that work that was put in, and it starts in March for him.
Yeah.
I mean, the season ends in January. He's back in there, and he takes a month off, and he's back out there working. So, and that's life, man.
That is life.
Yeah, one of my favorite commercials, I'm sure you remember it, was that Emmitt Smith commercial where, like, he's bench pressing. He says, I got to take some time off. I think y'all just won a Super Bowl. And he basically pauses at the top for a second. He's like, all right, back at it.
Yeah.
Back at it.
It was like a 2-second break. And I think it's just, those stories I just think are so powerful because I think they just help put things in perspective. Because I think, there's younger generations that they see those things, and maybe at school, they're given grades. Maybe at home, it's a little bit easier than it should be. Right. And it's hard to reconcile, like, that person worked for 20 years to get there, and they were bankrupt, they lived in a car. Yeah. They didn't have a father, and I think it's just really important to, like, give kids that inspiration. Yeah. And parents
just
too.
Keep doing it. Hey man, just keep doing it. That's the thing. I mean, it's almost like that old Nike commercial, just do it.
Yeah.
I have this saying of just keep doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have failure, but if you can be consistent, whatever it is, if you can show consistency every single day and grow on whatever it is, if it's learning whatever trade you need to learn every single day, if it's working out, you want to lose 20 pounds, if you just show up, if you're just available, that's a win.
Yeah. We always say we always say in our team meetings, like 10% better, right? Just be 10% better every week. We're going to just keep getting better. And then, little by little, it's going to come.
Yeah.
The problem is people quit.
Yeah.
They're right there. You're right there. And they quit.
And it's easy to quit.
It is.
But I think that's where for us as parents, it's just real important. And I don't know if you've heard, like, the Will Smith story about when his parents made him lay bricks. But there's a really good story where basically, like, his dad, I think, owned a store, and they tore the whole storefront down, and him and his brother, they had to replace all the bricks, and it was like a massive, like, construction job. And he says he remembers looking at it, as a kid and just thinking, this is basically impossible. And what happened was they would go out and they would lay a few bricks a day. And they might, after dinner, they go out and lay a few. And it took them, like, I think, over a year.
Oh, wow.
But at the end of that year, he looked at that wall, and it was this, like, massive thing that they had accomplished. And you could tell, like, that imprinted on him. Like, don't get overwhelmed with it. Like, just today, like, let's lay an amazing brick today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then lay another brick, and then another brick.
Yeah.
And a year later, you'll look back and something, amazing has happened. And I think as parents, it's just really important to help our kids. I thought that was just an amazing lesson that his dad had him do that, because he didn't really need to do it to build the wall. It was more of like, my kids need to experience this, like, long-term goal setting that's grinding and arduous, because at the end of that, they're going to take this huge lesson away.
Exactly. I got my wife, man. I got to give a lot of credit for my wife, because I'm not, the smartest guy in the world, trust me. But my wife does a great job with my little 4-year-old, and she set out to do his do planets with him. So the solar system, and we started off hard. It was slow, it was really slow, but it was every single day since COVID. Now, this kid can tell you about Jupiter, tell you how big Jupiter is. He wears me out about.
He can go to NASA now.
Yeah, I called it, exactly. I called it one of the planets Uranus. He says, no, it's Uranus.
Oh.
He's 4 years old. So he's got, you know what I mean? But it was a
lot of
the
work.
Groundwork. Like you said, every day was a brick.
Yep.
Yeah. I love
every
that story.
single day. Only if he had 5 minutes to do it.
That's how we
They
feel
put
about
some work
letters. We're teaching our 4-year-old the alphabet and identifying the letters. And it takes patience as a parent. But we're like 3 a day, you know, we're going to learn 3 a day, and then 3 a day turns into all 26, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I think it's a good
So
lesson.
but let me ask you guys this. You just said that. Where does it begin?
what's
The beginning?
Hey,
Who does it start? Who does it start
oh,
with?
it starts with us.
Oh yeah.
Starts with us as parents.
Because they're not gonna pick up the flashcards,
Our
right?
kids hate. My
Absolutely.
Cannon hates letters.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
hates them. You know,
Yeah.
but one of the lessons I always took away, you know, and I heard some people speak about it, when your kids are trying to learn how to walk and they fall, you don't say like walking's not for us.
Yeah. Let's just give up. Yeah.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
a parent already knows like, well, we're gonna walk. This is
Yep.
just part of it. And I think we just have to apply that to other things, you know,
Yes.
with our kids. It's not just walking. It might be, you know,
Riding a
riding a
bike.
bike. Oh, well, he didn't like it today. Riding a bike's not
Right.
for us. No. We're going to ride a bike, period.
We're gonna learn.
We're going to keep doing this until you ride it, you know, like you're a motocross champion,
Yeah.
period.
Right. Exactly.
And then it instills in that kid like, oh, I fall, I don't quit. Like it's just part of the process.
Yeah.
But it starts with your consistency, because if you miss,
That's right.
if you two miss,
Oh, they
and
remember
Megan and
that,
Matt
man.
misses, then what? Then what happens? You set yourself all the way back, and that's why I love like with Kick Strong. There's a process,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and it's built off consistency.
Yes.
And it's like chopping wood every single day.
Yep.
Every time you're in, you're chopping wood.
Yep.
That's what builds confidence.
Yes.
And that's what allows them to be resilient through situations.
I love that.
And we have to explain that to parents. You know, we might do similar things for 4 weeks in a row
Yeah.
because we're trying to build reps toward mastery.
But it also takes time, right?
It just takes time.
It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and you know, some kids might improve in 4 months, other kids might improve in 9 months.
Yes.
But there is always an improvement. You just have to be patient, and consistency is what you said.
Right.
Okay. Awesome.
All right, so we'll finish up. Darren, I really appreciate it. You know, I've heard you speak a few times, and you know, I remember hearing you speak at church, and I remember coming home telling like we have to get Darren involved. And it was nothing about football. You know, your football career is amazing, but I think who you are as a person, and you know, the way you inspire, you know, men and families and kids, you know, that in our stage, that's the thing that like we just want to be around that more, and we want to share that with our families as much as possible. I think we're going to do some awesome things together.
Absolutely.
I'm very excited about that, and we know you're busy, and we just really appreciate your time, and look forward.
Hey, I'm never too
keep
busy.
talking.
I'm serious. You got Matt. You know this. I'm never too busy for Kids Strong and for you, and Megan, and the family, man. It's look, man. I only have that much. I'm older than you two.
I remember watching you when I was in high school. You're way too big to play safety.
But I feel like, you know, the time I do have on this earth, man, why not make a difference?
Yeah.
Why not, why not make a difference in these kids' lives? And you guys have done a great job. You've gotten the right staff, the coaches. You got your kids crying in the background. But you got the right coaches in place, man. And let's keep on building this thing.
Yeah, and I'll end on this. So my children's preschool director texted me, and she said, are you talking to Darren Woodson tomorrow? And I said, I am. And she said, he is my all-time favorite Cowboy. So I know.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I wanted to let you know. She said, I love him so much. So I told her I'd let you know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
We're back.
Yeah. We're back. Yeah. You want to say bye?
You probably still heard some crying.
Speaking of kids.
You got to have separate rooms now. You got to separate the prisoners.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, we appreciate it, and looking forward to doing some awesome things together.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Hey, take care.